Today we're going to the interactive elements of Bootstrap. So where the fun starts with popovers, tooltips, modals, the carousel, and all the fun stuff. For that, let's open number 6. And then the first one we're doing is tooltip. So bigger. Tooltip is usually just to show additional infos on links or basically every element, but usually put it on links or some other elements where you really want to show additional information, like the pills we had and stuff like this. So all for that we have to do is to write some data element to use JavaScript. And let's pick a word here in our text. Let's pick here Liechtenstein. So the small country between Austria and Swiss. And let's put an anchor tag around it so that we want to make it clickable. We need an href for that, which we leave empty. And after the word Liechtenstein, we close the anchor tag. Okay. And we close that one here. So now we have here a link that goes nowhere. So in order to make it a nice Bootstrap styled tooltip, we have to add some elements. And in order to have Bootstrap or immediately have access to grab on that element, we need a data element attribute. So data. And this one is toggle. And in there we have to say tooltip. Okay. And then we can also specify when it is triggered. So data, trigger. And you can say on click, or by default it's on hover, but if you want to have something else, you say on click, for example. So another thing you should put on there is where it should appear, on top of the link we created, on the bottom, to the left, or to the right. So you can also specify that. So with data hyphen placement. And then you, for example, you can say top. Okay, but so far we still have nothing to display. And that is done with another attribute we know already from the first class, is the title. Okay. And in the title, you write the text you want to display. So okay. So, and with the title, the regular tooltip that is default by the browser works. But for Bootstrap, we have to write a little bit of jQuery, which is a library for JavaScript, in order to activate it. So we have to come here down to the bottom. And after the Bootstrap script, we have to create another one. I'll give a few lines. Okay. So we open a script tag. and close one. And in here, we have to write a little JavaScript. So you start with the $sign. The $sign is always a sign that you're working with jQuery. Okay. So, and then you start a function with the round ones. And then in there you say function. And in order to make the function being executed as soon as the browser reads it, you have to put another set of brackets there. And then you put whatever you want to put in there between curly brackets. Okay. Sometimes, like, I kind of stress a couple of times. Everyone following so far?
Sorry, Professor, I can't really hear you right now.
Okay. Oh, that is better now?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you start with the $sign, which is always an indicator that you're working with jQuery. And then you put a function within the first set of round brackets, which is that one and that one. And in there, we start writing a function. A function is a group of code that's being executed when you call it. And that one in specific is an anonymous function, so it doesn't have a name. So it's just a function, because we just have one. We don't have to give it a name. And in order to make it execute immediately when you are calling that function, you have that set of brackets here. And if you would put other information in here, you would put it in here. But that's later when we are in JavaScript. And then you open the curly brackets. And then between the curly brackets, like kind of like in CSS, you write what you want the function to do when you call it. Okay. Okay. So in here, then we call jQuery again, and the round brackets again, and then we need the tag marks, which is the single quotes. Okay. And so that's jQuery going to look in the code. So that's how it's built. So go jQuery, look for whatever is in here between the tag marks. And you looking for an attribute, and kind of like with CSS, if we want to look for an attribute, we have to use the square brackets, if you guys remember that. So we use the square brackets. And then inside the square brackets, we're looking for the attributes. So we are looking for the data, which one of the data toggle tooltip. So we're looking for that attribute. So data hyphen toggle equals quotes tooltip. Okay. Okay. So we're now jQuery goes in our code and finds the element that has a data attribute with tooltip. Now we have to tell it what to do with it. So that we can do in jQuery easy with concatenation. So we add something to our statement. That is done with a single dot. And then we just have to call another function, which is called tooltip. And then two round brackets. And at the end, we have a semicolon. And then at the very end as well. So, oh yeah, doesn't like JavaScript. So preview it in the browser. And when I click at it, we're seeing the nice styled box with our text in it. Because we didn't put it on hover, we put it on click. Which is, if you have a real link, it's not very productive because you're immediately going somewhere else. So the hover would be better there, but I just wanted to show you guys that even that is possible. Is it working for everyone? Okay. So that's all there is for tooltips. Can play around a little bit. You can say, oops, for example, bottom. Then is it coming here? No, of course not. Then if you go here, let's refresh. So now it's on the bottom. Okay. Let me get that one out for the next ones. Ooh, tooltip. So the next one is popovers. Where we have it here, popover. It's kind of similar to tooltips. It has just a different style, and it also needs its own activation with JavaScript. And let's create one here. Let's put it here on the bottom. So here we have the nice button. And we have to add some attributes to it. This time it's data toggle popover. So then data hyphen content of text. And then we also need a title. Okay. Just some information here. And then we have to go down to our script again. Here already prepared the empty jQuery call. And we just have to add our little line of code. So $, then the brackets, the tag marks, and then we're looking for the attribute again. So the square bracket, data, toggle, popover. Okay. And then we still have to tell it what to do with it when it found the attribute. So which is the popover function. Yeah. So it doesn't work good here. Yeah. Back here again. If I click the button, we get here the two things we put in here this time. So the first is the title, which is the title here. And then the data content would be our block of text we put in here. You see here, these two. So then that's the other one. We have, of course, some other elements we can add to that, which is if I want to have it triggered by something else, and if I want to have it appear on some other side. So let's say the wrong side. Here. Data, and then trigger. Let's do this time on hover, because the popover is on click by default. And then I can also give it a data placement. Let's do bottom. Okay. So, and now it's on hover and on the bottom. Working for everyone? Yes, okay. And that's pretty much all there is to popovers. So it's not hard to do because all the JavaScript and the styling is written for us. So let me get rid of that here again. So the next one is alerts. Alerts are small info blocks that you use to highlight something. For that, you don't need JavaScript. So let's put some here. Let's go to our div. Which div are we best to use? Let's add here in line 21. Which one is that one? Okay. Here around the German classes. Okay, for that we just have to add some classes again. So the first one we have to add is the class of alert. Okay, by that, as soon as we have that class on, you see it's a little different padding and margin and all the styling changed a little bit. And then we can also give it a color. So that is done with alert hyphen and the color, let's say info. Okay, then we have this blue box here. So if we want to update our spacing, we could do that. So after the unordered list, yeah, we can put a class here, for example. Let's do margin bottom of 2. Then we're getting this a little up. You see how you easily can change the margins and paddings with these little shortcuts in Bootstrap. Then let's say, for example, we want to make the heading 4 inside the alert a nice alert heading. So we have to apply another class there, alert hyphen heading. And with that, we have a little different spacing there. And we have an anchor tag in here. Yes, then even that one here, we can style a little different with another class. And that one is alert link. So it gets it better highlighted. The blue is gone, the underline is gone, except when you hover. Little cleaner look to everything. You can also add a button to dismiss this message, because usually if you have an alert, you just want to activate it if something's happening. So if, for example, if where I'm working, we're using the warning alert if something's not loading right, for example, on the page module. So you alert a message that says something's gone with the server or some other message, and that's activated dynamically. And sometimes you want to also have this message then disappear. So in order to that, we have to go to our div that has the alert here and add 3 classes. So the first is alert and then dismissible. So that tells JavaScript something that it's dismissible. And then we can add 2 other classes how we want to have it done. So we can add a class of fade. So it's not on off like a light switch, it transitions in and out. And then you can add, as soon as we did that, you see that it disappeared from our display. And then we can add another class to make it initially be displayed. So that class is show. And then it's here. So, and then before the heading 4 here, let's add a button to dismiss the whole message. Okay. So button with a type of button. And then we have to add some, at least one class. That one is close. And then we have something for JavaScript we have to put in there. So data hyphen dismiss. And then what should it dismiss? The alert. Okay. Then for the screen readers, area hyphen label. So to tell what the button does. And that one is close. And inside the button, we have to display something. So let's put a span there. Okay. And inside the span, we want to display the X symbol. So that is done with the $sign here, times and semicolon. Oh, it's not the $sign. That one, the ampersand. Okay, and then to the span, we have to add something for the screen readers again, area hyphen hidden, and then true. And now we have the little X here. And let me open that in the browser again. If you click the X, we're putting it out of sight. So it comes initially and then disappears. Questions? No, too easy.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's easy. That was Bootstrap was made for, is to make these reappearing elements really easy to have and style and have them styled in a unique way. So you not unique on every website, but it is one style, and you see it on multiple pages. So it's the user of the website gets trained to know what to do with these elements. So because they are have a unified appearance all over the web everywhere, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because people complain that all websites look the same, kinda, and that's one part of it. But it has some. Bootstrap brought some naming convention and standards and stuff like this into HTML and CSS. So this is all done. What's the next one? Collabs and accordions. So now we see how that works. So in here we have a button with the language information, and that one will make something appear and disappear. And then the other ones here will make accordions. Okay. So the button is already there and mostly done. So we just have to add our data and screen reader elements. Okay. So let's put here the JavaScript for data -toggle. And what should it do? It should collapse the whole thing. And then we need another data attribute. So data -target. So JavaScript knows what to minimize or expand. And let's call this one any ID that we're giving something later. Let's do that here, language info. Okay. Then something for the screen readers, area expanded. So of course at the moment it's expanded when we load it. And behind it is link to language info. Okay. Let's also put a class here, put that here into that one where we have the button info, just to have a little spacing, margin bottom 4. So we got a little space here in between. Okay, now we have to put the ID that we created here somewhere on an element that we want to expand or not expand. So here, well, let's select the paragraph, and we need to give it an ID, and the ID should be that one here. Okay. And then let's give it a nice class here. so that we want to have that collapse. Okay. And let's give it some bottom space, margin bottom of 3. Okay. And now with that, we have a nice animation as well as we can hide and show this block of text. No JavaScript that we have to write, nothing. Okay. Then, now for the accordion. Okay. Accordions are usually here to have it condensed information. Like here I have all the districts in Austria, and when you click on it, then the area expanded and you get some additional text to that district. Okay, this is done here. So I put everything in a card, but inside here, I have a div with the card header where we have the heading 3 in here and a link that points to an ID. And then I have another div down there with the ID that we point that one to. And in there we have another div with a card, and in there we have our text. And that's the same for all. Okay, so now, so the whole accordion is working except the first one. So, and we just have to do the first one. So I already placed the link in here for you guys. So, and this is one card here, and every block of this is its own card, okay? So now we have to put a div with an ID that we give around all of them. So div, okay. And then close it at the bottom here. Okay. Now inside there, we need to give it an ID. And let's keep it simple, like ACC for accordion. Then for the screen readers, we need to give it a role of tab list. Okay, so that the screen readers can tab through that one. And then an area element, area. And this one is called multi-selectable. Selectable. And that one is true. So that's for our overall div. And then to the card header, the div with the class of card header, we have to add a role. And that one is tab. And then we have to add an ID. Okay. Of, let's call that one the district, and then heading. So Burgenland heading. Okay. Then we have here these the anchor tag, and to that one, we have to add a data element. It's a data toggle. Collapse. And then something for our screen reader friends. Area expanded. Okay, this one is true. And then this link controls what? So area controls. And then one is Burgenland. And then on the div with the ID of Burgenland, we have to add a class collapse. And then, so now it's collapsed. And then we want to animate it. Or actually, we want to have it shown from the start. So show. And then for the screen readers, we need a role. This one is tab panel. Okay, and then we need for the screen reader something again. Area hyphen labeled by. So this one is labeled by the Burgenland heading. And then the parent element for the JavaScript, so data hyphen parent is the ID of ACC. Looks kind of complicated, right? So here the hidden element says the parent element here with that here is the whole thing for the JavaScript. So in here, the whole JavaScript works. Here the div with a card header has an ID, and that means that this header is then connected here to the labeled by for the screen readers. And the div also has its own ID of Burgenland, which is targeted by the anchor tag. So that ID is for linking these two here, and that ID is just for the screen reader. And that ID is for the whole text to go up and down for JavaScript. So with that, it should work already. And is it working? Okay. Now maybe you see why I always told you from the beginning, don't try to remember all of that. Go to the Bootstrap website and copy the code snippet to do that, because you can't remember all of that all the time, how it's written or how it has to be written to proper work. But it is good to have it written once to understand what connects to where. So if something's broken, you kind of know where to put your finger on to troubleshoot. Okay. Then let's take all that out. Okay. Then the next thing, modals. Modals are kind of like overlays you're putting on the page. So for modals, you have to have two parts. One is the button that triggers it. And then the second one is your actually content you want to display. Okay, let's go with the button first. So here we have one button. We already have the class and the type of button there. Now let's add the elements we need for JavaScript. So the data toggle again. And this one, it's modal. Then we need, like with the button, we have to link it to whatever we want to have appear. So we have to target it. So data, target. And we're pointing always to an ID. So we start with the hashtag. And because I ran out of names, I call it modal. Okay. So for that, then we have here our heading 2 and paragraph, and I have a div around the whole thing. Let's give a div around the text here, the paragraph. Okay, and let's close it after the paragraph. And let's give that one an ID. And that's the ID of modal. We just pointed from here to here. Okay. So if you don't use a button, if you use a link to do that, let's put here a link. Okay. We need the same classes, button and button primary. Then we need an href for a link. So, and then we put the ID here. Okay. And we also need the data toggle. Okay. So if you use an anchor tag instead of a button, you don't have the button target attribute, and you use the href for that. Should work the same way. So now to the div with the class of modal, we have to add stuff. We have to add classes. So the first one is the class of modal, and which makes it disappear. And then let's put an animation for it on it as well. This was the class of fade. Okay. Okay. Then let's put a div inside the div. Modals are famous for divs. So a div inside here. And that one has a class of modal dialog. So, and in here, we could put the heading 2, for example. And let's put also the paragraph in here. Okay. So we have all of that now within the modal dialog. So the first one is modal. And the second one was the dialog. Okay. So in here, then you will have to put another div around the whole content with a class of modal content. And now you know why I started commenting that. And inside that one, you need a class of a div with a class of modal body. Okay, let's check our progress. So that one's working already. And you can click anywhere off to make it disappear. And the same for the anchor tag. So, and now we can put some other elements in it. So for example, the heading 2, we can take out of here and put it before the modal body, but inside a div with the class of modal header. Okay. And that makes it then stand out better. You get this horizontal rule in here. And the heading 2 can even have to have better spacing, its own class of modal, what was the title? Yeah, modal title. And that makes it even more styled a little bit. So then after the modal body here, but still inside the content, we can create another div with the class of Modal Footer. Okay, and that's usually where you put buttons to go somewhere else, like call to action buttons. So let's create one. Okay, what do we call that one? Back. Sometimes we even put back buttons there to dismiss the modal. We have a type of button, then the class of button and button. Let's give it a secondary color. Then we also should give it some for the JavaScript, something that JavaScript knows what to do with that button. So data dismiss, and the modal we want to dismiss. Okay. That one is then here, the back button. And if I click that one, I'm going out. Usually you have one button here or an X up here to close the modal so that everyone knows it goes away if you click somewhere or off. So for the other option, let's create the X button. So you see how that's done. So here after the heading 2, let's give here another button with the class of button and the class of button secondary. No, sorry, just the button. Let's start with that here. And the button is a type of button. And then we have a class of close. And then for the JavaScript, data dismiss the modal. And for the screen readers, area label close. Okay. Then inside the button, we have to put the span again with the X. So span. In here we have the times. And we have to give it an area for the screen readers of hidden of true. Okay. So now we have this little X here, and we even can close it here. Is that working for everyone? Something that I'm not doing quite often is I think you can even make big and small modals with modal large for a bigger one. I think we don't have enough text for that. And then there's also a modal small, I think. Have to look it up myself now. But I remember that there are two sizes. You can make them a little bigger or a little smaller. Questions? Okay, modals are fun. Don't use them too often. In order for screen readers to make it a lot of sense with that, so basically if you have the button where you want to have the modal to appear, you can put the div with the class of modal wherever you want on the website in the HTML. It could be the last thing here. but it's nicer to put it in the place it should be appearing. So when you read through the page, like just below the button, in order to make more sense for search engine optimization, screen readers, and all that crawler technology stuff, to have your page structure proper in place. Okay. So don't save. Then another big topic, and second to last for us, is the carousel. And you heard me talking a lot about carousels earlier, where you always should look that all your images are the same height and wide enough, and so on and so on. So, and depending on for which screen size you're trying to develop, you want to have your pictures with the right ratio for that space you're developing to. If you're developing for very wide range, I would at least have 2,000 to 3,000 pixels width for an image, but try to have the file size as low as possible for the load time. Okay. So here on the page, I have put four images already here, and then some text below it, and one image has even some text that we can play with. If you're interested, this is where I lived the last 25 years in that house. That was in summer here somewhere, and this is where I grew up. So really horrible places. This is Croatia, the 2 ships I had with my dad. Enough of that. So here, for our carousel, we have a container here. I put everything in a row, and then I made a section with the column that is for the whole width of the page. So if we're done later and we need different column sizes, I would just have to edit here. So it's a kind of nice setup so that you then later don't have to write a lot of stuff around all your carousel in order to do it. Then here I have a div. Inside the div, I have the 4 images. All of them have image fluid class on it in order to make them not expand or overflow the element they're sitting in. Source and alternative text. And then I have another div inside here where I have the heading 3 and the paragraph, which is for these extra text. Okay, and then down here, the other content starts. So, and out of that here, we're making a carousel. So in the first step is, I already created a div around all of that. And for that, we are putting some classes around. So class, this one is carousel. And then we also have to give it a ID of featured. Okay, ID of featured. And then for JavaScript, a data attribute, data-write carousel. Okay. And let's do, that should be close to working. No. Okay. Okay, so this one, I love to have typos in here. So that should do something already. Oh, first we then. So now the carousel will be split up in 3 parts. The part with the images, then the part with the indicators that are the 2 arrows on the side where I can go, the buttons where I can go next slide or back, and then the indicators on the bottom that shows you how many images are in that carousel. So, and then we have to group the images together. So we have to put all the images within the div. Okay. So, and let's start naming them again. And that one is the images. Okay. Okay. So, and that one needs, of course, a class. And that class is carousel hyphen inner. Okay. Then we have to put every image inside a div with the class of carousel item. So, div. And the text stays also with the one div. Okay. Now the image has disappeared, right? Everyone there? Good. Okay, then let's give the first image also a class of image, or that one here, class of active. Okay, Now, first image is here. And is it scrolling also already? Because every 5 seconds we should get a new image. Should be working already. Yeah. Is that working for everyone? Okay, it does not work if you have the mouse over the image. That stops the carousel. And if not, this is all we did so far. Should work for everyone by now, because that's what we're building on. Everyone, yes?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's working for you or not?
Yeah, so far so good.
Oh, okay. Doesn't look good so far, but it's working. Okay. So every image has its own div with carousel item. The first one that you want to display has a class of active. Everything is within a div of a class of carousel inner, and everything of that is in the div with the class of carousel. Okay. That's where we are. So if we want to add some animation, we have to get to the most outer div, the class of carousel. And here we can add a class of slide. So now the image should slide in from the side. Show it. Yeah. So it's not this light switch on off anymore. It's sliding in. Okay. So then we have a set of captions for the one picture with the lake. So here already put a div around everything. And this one should have a class. Carousel caption. Caption. Okay. And then we also can display different elements on different screen sizes, a little different. Let's say if we're on cell phones, we don't want to have it displayed, so D-none. But then on bigger than iPad, we want to make it display. So MD for medium size, then we want to have it block. Okay. Now here we see we have the caption here. And if we go smaller, here that disappears. And if we go bigger, we have it there. Now it's gone. Okay. Then let's make the buttons to accelerate and slow down. So between the closing of the images and the last one for the carousel, I don't know why, but the buttons are usually at the end. So here, okay, exactly, images. We're having an anchor tag, and that one needs class of carousel hyphen control hyphen. For the left side, we want to have previews, pref. Okay. Then we need a hyperreference, href. And we want to have it targeted to the featured ID. This is that ID we gave here, the whole carousel. Then we have to give it a role of button. Then for JavaScript, we need data hyphen slider. For preview, pref. And then we close that one. And then we close the anchor tag. And in between here, kind of like with the button, we have to put a span. Okay. Let's put an opening and a closing span. And there's actually nothing in between, but in the opening span, we have to add a class of carousel control previous icon. Carousel control previous icon. Okay. And then, of course, for the screen readers, area hyphen hidden of true. Okay. And then something only for screen readers. So we need another span with a class of sr hyphen only. And here we put the text previews and close the span. And because programmers are lazy, we just select everything, copy it, one line down, and change previews to next. Feature preview. And the word previews to next. And with that, we have this little slider. And it seems like I have a typo. No. Why? Are the buttons working for you guys? So I have the buttons here, but they're not going. Are they working for you guys? No one typed with me. Okay, I might have a typo here somewhere in here. But as I told you, usually never type them yourself. Somewhere I must have a typo. Okay, so going on to the next one. We can also make the indicators down here. And these ones are usually on the top. And no one could ever tell me why they are here and not on the bottom. But by default, they're always up here. So after the div with the class of carousel and slide, but before the div with the class of carousel inner, we have to put an ordered list. Okay. And in here, we have to, how many pictures we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures. So that means we have to put 4 list items in here. Okay. So now we have to give the ordered list a class of carousel indicator. Indicators. Okay. And then we have to put into all of the list items data target attribute, data hyphen target, and that would point to the whole carousel, so to the ID of featured again. Okay, and then we have to give it numbering for JavaScript, and JavaScript starts with counting with the number 0. So the first element is number 0. For that we do data slide 2, and then we start with 0. And then the second one is 1, the third one is 2, and the fourth one is 3. And the first one, because we made the first image with the class of active, we have to give the first list item also the class of active. Okay. Yeah, it's not a good picture for that. But if we're ever getting to a second picture, there. there we see we have our 4 lines there, and the second one is now highlighted, which means we are on the second image of the carousel. And if you click here, it should continue. Yeah, that at least works. Okay, that means I really had a typo up there with the anchor text, because you can do that here too. Okay, is that working for everyone? Yes, good. Okay, so that's all there is to carousels. Carousels are not limited to full width elements. You can put them inside smaller column grid layouts, whatever you want. But it's always the same. If you want to have the indicators, you need that element here. If you want to have the buttons to go on forward or backward, you need the 2 anchor tags here with all that extra stuff. And you always need the carousel inner with the carousel items and the images inside. Okay. That's it for carousels. And then the last thing I want to show you guys, and I talked last time, is the scroll spy. So let's preview that one. Okay, so here I have a navigation and then a big image of a lake in Austria. And now we see when we scroll down, the navigation disappears. And I have these sections, the one about Austria, the one about the districts, the one about the lakes, and then the ski areas. And I made the small images a little sticky to top. So we have that here, and then I have an empty footer on the bottom. Okay. So, and now we make it that whenever you scroll down, the navigation will be fixed top, and wherever you are, it will be highlighted like if I'm hovering. Why did I have not 2? Okay. Okay, let's start with that. I'm sorry, that makes me tremendous nervous here. Where is everything now? Here, okay. It always makes me crazy if that thing pops over to the other side. Okay, so scroll spy. If you look through our HTML, and you all see Dreamweaver right here, right? I didn't mess that up. Okay.
There you
go. Okay, so I have here some styling for the page. I have here even a class that is not applied at the moment. We need later with the margin top for when we make the navigation sticky to the top, not sticky, fixed to the top. I made even some adjustments for different screen sizes. And then here we have the body. I have an ID of home. Is just for the navigation, that this then is highlighted. Then I have the navigation inside the nav tags. Then we have a Jumbotron with the image here as a background image. Then we have the class of container down here. And then we have the next section with the ID of Austria with that text. Then we have the next section here with the districts, with cards. And after that, here we have the next section with the ID of lakes. And I think that's it till, yeah, media. Yeah, and that's it. And the footer. Okay. So that is all prepared for us. And now we just have to apply the scroll spy to it. First, let's make the navigation fixed top. So for that, we already know we just have to add the class of fixed top. And immediately you see that the image jumped to the top. And for that, we have the Jumbotron down here. And here to the Jumbotron, we add the class I showed you earlier, margin top header. It's the one I wrote. Okay, so this is now the same. We have some spacing here in order to make that all appear as it should be. So if we preview that one now, where did it go? It ran away from me. Okay. I will find that one later. Okay. Which was that? Okay. The computer doesn't want, I do. So we have that here, and that one should work already, but I haven't saved it. That's why it's not working. So now if I click, what we see now that our heading is exactly behind here. The heading doesn't get the extra margin top that I wrote for the image. And now we have to adjust that. So, and that can be fixed with, there is a JavaScript I think I have here. So, which I commented out is the smooth scroll and offset fixer. So let's activate that one. So, and now we have smooth scroll and we have the offset here too. What I did here, I went out and got some smooth scroll script from the internet. And here I could give the offset of 56 pixels, which is the height of the navigation bar as a variable in. And so all the elements that are clickable in the navigation get this offset to the top. So we don't have this overlapping headline problem anymore. Okay, for that. But as we see here on the website, it still does not work with highlighting the right elements in the navigation, because we should see different elements highlighted depending on where we are. And for that, we have to go to our opening body tag. Okay. And we have to add here data hyphen spy scroll. Okay. And then we can say, where should he put the information? It's the data hyphen target. Okay. And that one is the ID of navbar site, which is that ID I gave here. Okay. And then we can add the data offset of 56 here as well for the first block here. Data offset of 56. So with that, we see as soon as Austria hits the 56 pixel mark, the highlighting jumps to the next element. That cool? Is it working on your computer? Okay. That's working for everyone. That's as far as I wanted to show you Bootstrap.